Hi everyone, in this video I would like to give you an inside look of a production I made for a duo based in San Antonio, Texas called GANGA. You can find them as We Are GANGA. The duo is made by Gato and Gavi. I've known them for many years. I had the opportunity to play in a cover band with Gato many years ago. And they've been doing really great in San Antonio, Texas, playing on different venues, but they wanted to start releasing their own music. They want to get started doing some cover songs, and in this case, it's a cover by song by Grupo Intocable called Fuerte no Soy. The style they wanted to do was more electronic based, EDM, and they asked me to see what I could do with that. So we started collaborating, communicating, and of course, the first couple of songs that you work with somebody, it's a very interesting thing because it's when you start building that communication, you're starting to get to know each other better, knowing what they want, what the vision is in the project. So there was a lot of input from Gato and Gavi in this production for sure. But I had the opportunity to work on the music, and I wanted to give you a little insight of what it sounds like and the sounds we chose to work on, and a little bit of the arrangement of the song. So let's get started. I guess we'll go by sections. We'll listen to the section and then we'll stop and analyze what's happening. I'll try to share as much as I can about the instruments that are playing and what kind of processing I use for them. So let's start.
Dices que te vas porque ya no soportas tu amarga soledad, que ya no soy romántica como cuando te empecé a conquistar, que me olvide de los pequeños detalles que te hacían vibrar, que me rodee una armadura de acero difícil de penetrar.
Okay, so let's start with the bass. We have two main bass instruments happening at this section. Had this one called bass pulse, which is pretty much keeping a steady pulse, and it's more mid-range based. I wanted to have one bass defining that attack and that mid-range with clarity, so this is the way it sounds. I'm cutting the low end in this one, adding a little bit of saturation and movement. If I bypass it, it stays kind of in the center. This one starts creating a little bit of movement. Okay, so that's one, and the other one is creating that foundation in the low end. This is more static, doesn't have a lot of movement. It's just helping keep that solid low end. And for this one, I'm using the track mode of this EQ to boost 1.5 dBs, the fundamental. I have a sub generator to generate a few more frequencies in the very, very low end. And then both of them are controlled by a multi-band and then L2. Okay, so that's the bass. Okay, next we can go to the piano, bells, string pads, and violins. Let's see what's happening here. So here, this is the piano sound. Okay, and for that piano sound, I'm cutting some of the mids, the very low end, 60 and below. And I'm adding a little bit of character by using this plugin called RC20. It's actually adding some noise and distortion, and a little of the preset name is vinyl. So a little bit of that kind of vintage sound to it. Not a lot. It's kind of halfway in the mix, but it does make a little bit of a difference. It's kind of subtle, but even when the instrument is not playing, you can hear the noise. If I turn it off, it goes away. Okay, and we have these bells happening here just to kind of answer in between the vocals. Okay. Very long sounding, a lot of sustain, I guess, in those. Then we have a string pad. Now for this one, it's an EDM song, and I didn't go for like ultra realistic strings, but I did want it to have a little bit more of the sound of real strings. So I added this violin ensemble. So the string pad by itself sounds like this. Right, and if we add the violin, right, no violin, bring it back in, goes away, bring it back in, it does make a difference. In my opinion, at least. Yes. So it definitely, a lot of the emotion goes away without the violin. You bring it back in. So by working those two sounds together, it kind of gives you the idea of this big string ensemble, and it gives you a little bit of detail, like you're close to one of the sections. Okay, so let's move on to the next section, similar to the first one, but with a little bit more rhythm happening.
Sé que es verdad todo lo que estás diciendo, no lo puedo negar. Y me lastima en lo profundo del alma que quieras terminar. Mi mente loca al sentirte seguro no supo valorar.
Okay, so again, we have the bass pulse and the bass pad happening that we checked out earlier. And this is a kick that starts right here. It's a kick that does not have a lot of low end. It's just to have a steady pulse happening. Okay. Then we have the piano kind of taking over instead of just the strings. And it's going through this reverb, which I really like. And I'm cutting the low end of that reverb. I didn't want to get too muddy. And to support that piano, I have this lead. Okay, they keep playing, and you notice here we have the piano verb, the reverb for the piano, and this is the mute automation, and as you can see, it completely goes away once it's about to start to hit the chorus, to make sure it kind of like disappears right before the chorus. I didn't want to have any kind of tails happening there. Just disappeared. Okay, let's check out the chorus or hook of the song.
Y la verdad es que no soy tan fuerte como lo pensaba. Yo sé que ahora estoy temblando de miedo, pues sin ti no soy nada. Si tú te vas me quedaré muerta en vida, mi mundo se acabará. Será imposible para mí existir sin tu amor, sin tu cara. Y arrepentida de todos mis errores, te suplico por favor que no me odies y que no me abandones, porque fuerte no soy. Arrepentida de todos mis errores, te suplico por favor que no me odies y que no me abandones, porque fuerte no soy. Fuerte no soy. Fuerte no soy. Fuerte no soy.
Okay, so let's go one section at a time. We have this bass coming in the chorus. Now, even though this song came up recently, I worked on this a long time ago, and I'm looking at the processing. Let me see. Have a little bit low end, some mids, boosted on the EQ, and then I have the reverb. Let's see. Probably had a patch that had a lot of reverb on it, and I ended up not liking it. And instead of going back and retweaking the preset, I decided to try this, and I guess it worked for me. So let's check out what this is doing. Okay, without it. See, that reverb tail is way too long, right? So with and without. With. It's more controlled. Without it. Yeah, the decay of that reverb and that bass is way too long. Way too long. So this is helping out. Okay, then we have this other bass playing together. More in the top end. And in this one, I'm just using this plugin, which is adding a little bit of movement, modulation, and distortion, actually. Without it, it was too clean. Needed to get a little dirty. Together. Okay, and then we have this bass kind of responding. Filling out that little gap. And this one I kind of move it to the sides. And I'm controlling the low end a little bit with this dynamic EQ. And it has the one-knob pumper, just to make sure it's not in the way of the kick drum. Okay, then we have the drums. Now we have the main kick happening here. One thing that that helps me a lot is use the transient shaper on kick drums and different instruments, but especially in kick drums, because it allows me to control the attack and the sustain part of the kick to make sure it fits with the song. There's different ways of doing this, but this is one way of doing it. Without it, this kick was sustaining for too long. It was kind of getting in the way of the song. So I added a little bit of attack and I actually cut the sustain. This is how it sounds. And this way it works better with the song. Okay. And then let me see, we have the snare clap. Again, for this one, actually, big part of the sound is coming out from the reverb. The reverb of the snare is actually shaping the sound a lot. It's right here, this reverb. Again, for this kind of music, I like the sound of this reverb. And if I mute it, this is the way it sounds. Which is great, but it was not fitting the song the way I wanted. So I created this reverb and I'm EQing it with a little boost in the mids, and it sounds like this. It's adding more sustain and more mid-range to that snare. Without it, with it's just filling that little gap that I was missing, that section. Okay, so for this section, there's a few things happening, but the main one is being done by this plugin that does many things at once. Quick explanation of what's happening here. I have all my instruments, for example, bass, and they're routed to all bass, all kick, all drums, all effects. Pretty much they're going to another subgroup. And in that subgroup, I can add additional processing, right? And as of now, in this track, at least I got all the subgroups, the music part of it, not the background vocals or the main vocals, routed to this and another auxiliary that has a filter. And the filter is this plugin called Endless Smile. And this plugin is doing many things at once. But let's see what happens. Let's see. Okay, so that transition was, emphasized by this plugin. All those instruments were affected by what this plugin was doing. If I bypass this plugin, has way less impact, right? One more time, without it. With the plugin. Big difference. Now, the reason this plugin is not designed to work in Pro Tools, so I'm using this plugin called Blue Cat Patchwork that allows me to use audio units or BSD plugins inside Pro Tools. Okay, so what else is happening here? We have this riser. Snare build up. Again, you can hear that it get affected by Endless Smile. And what else? Okay, the subkick. Right. You notice also in this section it's just the claps without the snare. This next section has this lead sound that is kind of like playing the role of the accordion, what it did on the original Intocable song. I tend to keep things simple and just do one or two maybe layers, or just one, try to get the right sound from the beginning and make sure it works. But in this case, I didn't seem to be happy, or maybe it was Gato, I'm not sure. But we end up doing kind of like enriching the sound by mixing different lead sounds, layering them. Okay, so let's check out how it sounds. Okay, let's listen to individual parts. Okay, so notice that they have different kind of levels of brightness, or some of them are more in the top end, some of them are more like mid-rangey or in the low spectrum. And I guess that's what my logic behind layering them. Maybe I had something, maybe let's say I started with this one. I felt like it was not strong enough, and I added more top end with the next one. Right? And maybe, see, starts creating a bigger sound. Again, if we build it one by one, you notice how each one is bringing something new to the table. And of course, all of them are going to this subgroup and being processed by this plugin by Steven Slate, I believe it's called Heatwave. And it's pretty much adding a little bit of saturation and top end. Let's listen how it's changing the sound. Yeah, so I hear like it's kind of scooping a little bit of the low mids, and it's creating a little bit of saturation, make it more dense, so it's easier to be heard by the audience. When you saturate something, it makes it sound louder without increasing the peaks of the waveform, which is beneficial at the end in mixing and mastering. So that's pretty much what it's doing. Maybe exciting the top end, cutting some low mids, and adding some saturation. Okay, so for the vocals, it's pretty much divided in three sections. The main vocals, we have the effects, and we have the background vocals. Okay, so let's listen to them real quick. We have the main vocals.
Y la verdad es que no soy tan fuerte como lo pensaba.
Okay, and then we have these effects.
Como lo pensaba. Como lo pensaba.
Okay, kind of like the phone filter effect in both of them, and with the motion, brow motion effect. This one is, I know there's different plugins that might help you create this kind of effects on the fly. But in this case, I decided to do a manual. Just chop the vocals here, and I believe 60 notes. Right. Okay. Okay, so those kinds of effects.
favor. Porque fuerte no. Porque fuerte no. Porque fuerte no soy.
Okay, the tape is slow down tape effect there. And of course the background vocals.
Y la verdad es que no soy tan fuerte como lo pensaba. Mi voz se quiebra, estoy temblando de miedo, pues sin ti no soy nada.
Okay, so that's pretty much it. We have this for the ending.
Porque fuerte no soy. No, 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 no. Fuerte no soy. No, 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 fuerte no soy. No, 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 fuerte no soy.
Okay, for the effects and the vocals, we have this reverb with a little bit of compression after. The mod delay with an EQ, cutting out the high frequencies and the low frequencies, emphasizing the mids. We have this manipulator doing an octave lower. It's kind of like an additional vocal that goes one octave below Gavi's voice to create that deeper sounding effect. And I have this one called box top, which is basically just an additional aux to have control over the very, very top end of the vocals, and sending it to that one. This is an important thing, right? Undo whenever you do that. Just to add a little bit of top end to the vocals, but more controlled, very compressed. Okay, and that's pretty much it. These are all the tracks in the song. Quick review maybe about the routing of the song. We have all these sounds going into subgroups. The subgroups go into the filter track. We have this Endless Mile plugin helping out. Then they go to music. Okay. And then music goes to mix, which would be this aux. All the vocals go to all box. All the background vocals and effects go to all BGBs. And then they go to mix. Okay, and that way allows me to control every subgroup individually if I need to, and I can control the music and vocal balance easier too. And then on this mix aux is where I do the mastering pretty much. I like to mix and master at the same time. I do not master it from the beginning. Obviously, we're not producing, making everything. There's no plugins here at all, right? It's until I get to the point in which I'm going to start mixing the song. I get it to a point in which it's sounding good. I make sure I have enough headroom here, around -6, -4. Then I start adding some bus compression and stuff like that, and started kind of going my way into doing the mastering of the song. And what I like about that is that allows me a chance to go back and fix things in the mix if things are not working out at a mastering level. Sometimes you mix something, you send to a mastering engineer, and he tells you, can you go back and fix this and that, or the balance is not quite right for me to do the best job I can, or something like that. So there's a lot of things that kind of reveal themselves until the mastering stage of it. And by doing it this way, it allows me to go back and fix other things. Of course, everything has pros and cons, but for me, for my workflow, it works. I guess that's it for this video. I will appreciate comments of anything that you want me to explain in more detail, any plugin that you want me to talk more about, or my process of mixing, or how maybe I do the mastering in more detail. All those things, I would love to share that with you. But please feel free to ask in the comments. Thank you.